Hey, this is Brother Willie with Brother Willie Believes. Good morning. I'm here, or good afternoon, rather. It's Wednesday, and it's 6 p.m. Time for our live Bible study here at Sango United Methodist Church. I wanted to share with you today. We're going to read a little bit in the book of Daniel about a guy that just wouldn't listen, wouldn't pay attention, and therefore he seemed to get himself in trouble a lot. And he was a big guy in the world as he knew it. He was a king, and he thought he was above everything. So we're looking at a guy named Belshazzar, excuse me. He was Nebuchadnezzar's son, and Nebuchadnezzar had made his own set of mistakes. You'll recall that he got proud. God had made him a powerful man and able to do anything he wanted, and he could reward people he wanted to reward. And if he didn't like you, he would humble you. It didn't matter what it was. And so what we find out is he died and left the kingdom to his son, Belshazzar. And this young man had been brought up and had all of the perks in life that anybody would want, especially in those days and times. He had food, and he had nice clothes, and he probably had some of the best horses in the land, and just went and did his own thing as a young man and didn't have anybody to tell him no. So this is something that he grew up without any accountability, so to speak. And what happened out of this is he became king, and he wanted to party. The world was at his fingertips. Everybody was scared of his dad, and obviously they would all be scared of him as well. And so he threw a party. 1,000 of his noblemen were at this party and invited. Their wives, the king's wives, the king's concubines. It was a party of all parties. And so one of the things he wanted to do was make it extra special. So he went to the temple, and he got out all the gold goblets that had been taken from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar and taken out of the temple there and brought to the temple of their gods. And he decided, hey, let's have this party and we'll drink wine. So he passed these golden goblets out to everybody, and they all filled it with wine and drank. And then he looks up on the wall after he'd had his fill of wine, and he saw something that had never been seen before. He saw a hand writing a message on the wall. Just a hand. And he was scared to death. It turned him pale, white as he could be. All the blood rushed out of his body. And he was just scared to death. Didn't know what it meant. I imagine I would have been too. I'm sure you would have been if you'd seen that. Nobody standing there, but a hand, physical hand right there writing words on the wall. He didn't understand what the words meant. So he went to his priest of his temple, and he said, if anybody can tell me what these words mean, I will make you wealthy and more powerful than anybody in the whole land save two. So they'd be the third most powerful person on the planet. He had dressed them in purple and put a gold chain around their neck, and nobody could figure it out. There was no one that could interpret what he had seen. Then the wife came in, the queen, and she says, "O king, hopefully you are well." And see, at those days and times, even the wife that came into the king's presence without being summoned could be put to death. And if anybody was in the king's presence in a bad mood, they could be put to death. But she came in and said, "Don't be so pale. There's a guy in the land who is said to have the spirit of the gods in him. And he interpreted dreams for your dad when he was king." And so what he did is he said, okay, bring him up and let's talk to him. So his name was Daniel. We know him as Daniel. And they went and got him and said, hey, are you the guy that used to interpret dreams from my dad and have all kind of wisdom and all this in the land? And he says, I am. He said, well, I will give you authority to be the third most powerful man in the land. If you can interpret what this means, and I'll give you a purple clothing, and I'll give you a golden necklace to put around your neck. And well, Daniel wouldn't have anything to do with that. Daniel told him, said, Belshazzar, king, you can keep all of your stuff, and you can give your rewards to anybody you like to. I don't need all your stuff. He said, but I will tell you what your dream meant. And let me read you what he said here. Daniel, as he interpreted this dream, he told him, your dream I mean, not a dream. I keep saying dream. It was an actual vision of, he saw this hand writing on the wall, and the hand wrote these words, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Perez. Daniel looked at that writing on the wall, and he said, this is what it means. God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. And your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Now, that's pretty tough talk right there, especially to, at that time, the most powerful man in the world. He could have done away with him if he didn't like his message. He could have told him that we're going to make this a bearer of bad news. I'm going to make it very difficult for you. I'll make draw and quarter you. I mean, it's all kinds of things that could have happened, but Daniel was not scared. Daniel walked with God. And so he told this message to the king, and that very night the king was slain. And his lands were divided. It says here that Darius the Mede took over the kingdom. Darius was 62 years of age. Now, what does this tell us? This Bible story tells us, if you've been given many blessings, if you've been put in a position of power, if you've been given the opportunity to have a wonderful life, don't take it for granted. Don't live high on the hog. Make life better for those around you. Jesus blessed you so that you can be a blessing to others. And I find it fascinating that we just, in America especially, we work hard. We try to live a high lifestyle, a better standard of living. And that's fine, but not at the cost of helping those around us that are struggling. God didn't give them the ability to maybe earn a living like he gave you and I the ability to do. And so because of the gift of being able to make a good living he's given to us, it's with the expectation that we would do for others that don't have that gift. Now, why would we do that? Well, one, because we're following Jesus, he asked us to love our neighbor as ourselves. And number two, they may have a gift that we don't have. Maybe it's a gift of insight. You may not have insight like you think you do. You know, maybe it's a gift of encouragement, and you are going to need encouraging sometimes. Who knows what that gift is that they have that maybe we need? So we share our gift with them. They share their gift with us. That's the way God works in this kingdom. But in this situation, this young man, as I read his story, I find out he's a lot like, well, us. Sometimes we think that we don't have to answer for things. Sometimes we think we do what we want to do because we're responsible for our own actions. We're responsible for providing for our own living, our family. When indeed, maybe we're responsible to do it, but we've been gifted to be able to do it. You are intelligent because God has allowed you to study. He's allowed you to be in a place that can teach you things that you need to know for later in life, which may be now. We may be in the later part of our life now. So what we did in the first part of it helps us today. Not everybody is in that situation. And so we cannot become proud and hardened in the heart that we don't feel the pain or the suffering of other people. We must be the kind of people that will recognize, be humble, be glad, be appreciative of what God has done for us, and therefore we're soft-hearted and we're compassionate to those that need a hand up. Not a handout, but a hand up. All around us are people that need things. I need things. Even you need things. And there's someone close to us that can fulfill that need, whatever that need is. Now, if that person that can help us with what our need is hardened in the heart and will not do it, then we do not receive that which God would have us to receive by the person he's gifted to give it to us. Now, that's on that end of it. It can be flip-flop, where we're the person that's got a hardened heart. I know sometimes you go by the people that maybe have a handout, and we're not to decide what the motive of their heart is. Doesn't mean you give money to or provide for every single person you meet, because sooner or later, it wouldn't take long, you'd run out of the ability to do that. Your ability would be limited really quick if you gave to every single person. So therefore, you need to discern the ones that God has put in front of you. And those that are in front of you are there for one of two reasons. They're there because God wants you to help them, or they are there because Satan's trying to take from you. And if you walk close to God, if you speak to him and you listen to him, not just speak to him, but if you speak to him and listen to him daily, multiple times a day, often, then he will give you a discerning heart. There are times when I have to go to someone that's wiser than I am, that walks closer to the Lord than me, and talk to them about the things of God. Get advice from them. The Bible tells us a wise person has many counselors. And so when we do these things, it helps us to have a discerning heart in the direction of any choice and decision that we may be facing. And so we find this guy, Belshazzar, is not doing that. Even though he's the king, he's got unlimited power in the world until this day comes. But he's abused his privilege so much that God takes it away. He gives him a sign, and he says, this day will be your last. Your days are numbered. And I find that fascinating. God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Now, when he heard that, the last day that he was reigning was that very day. And that was the end of the trail for him. It didn't say, I'm going to give you a chance to get it right. I find a lot of times in the Bible, God gives us second chances. And sometimes he gives us a second chance. And sometimes he gives us a third second chance, so to speak. We don't always heed them, do we? But on this day, God looked at this gentleman and he said, today's the end. I don't know what it looked like before, but I do know that he saw his dad. He understood what his dad went through. If you remember when Nebuchadnezzar, he became proud, and with his power and his ability that God gave him, he became proud of his own power. And so God told him that he would have to go out and live in the pastures, and he would have to eat grass like an animal until he understood that God is the one who raises people up and gives them their ability. It took him several years to do this. Now his son, Belshazzar, saw this. He remembered it. And yet he still had a hardened heart. He served the God of gold, silver, copper, wood, and stone. And the Bible even says that those gods cannot make choices, cannot decide, cannot help. And yet he worshiped them anyway after seeing what his dad went through, and that the God that we call Jehovah, our God, is the one who provided for Nebuchadnezzar to come back. He saw this and still turned his back against it and was a proud man, not to be humble. Let us not be that people. Let us be able to see when God is calling us, and we listen and we obey. Because belief, faith, if you will, is important in our life. But it's not the only part of who we are as a follower of Jesus Christ. Equally important to faith is obedience. Now think about that. God, he rewards faith, but he also rewards the obedience. You can't just be listeners of the word and hearers of the word, if you will. You've got to be doers of the word. So like Belshazzar, let us not be found in his shoes. Let us be found to be listening to God and doing his word. I don't know where you are today. I don't know what you're facing today. I don't know your struggles, but God knows. And he's listening. He's waiting. I want to share with you another scripture. It comes out of the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 29 through 31. Now listen to what it says here. It's very interesting. It says, I'm going to read this. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of our Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Now mine, it looks like on the top few, he has to count a few times less with me. When I was younger, I might have had thicker hair. Now it's thinning out. It says, so don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. And I wonder today if you are listening to this scripture even, that God cares for you so much that he numbers your hairs on your head. He won't even let you fall to the ground without it having a purpose. He won't let you struggle without it having a desired effect. Now see, when you struggle, it's not because he doesn't care. It's because he needs you to have a desired effect, a purpose, a reason for your struggle. So we shouldn't look at it as if God's not listening to us. We shouldn't look at it as if God doesn't care. We should look at it like, oh, God's talking to me. He's trying to show me something here. And listen and see what it is that he would want you to know and learn from your experience. Don't let us get in such a position in life that we no longer are able to hear God's voice. I hope you have a wonderful rest of this day. Thanks for joining me today. Go in peace.